Welcome to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. If you're on a mission to be more frugal with both your time and money, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we talk about topics that help enhance living a frugal lifestyle. The goal is to save time and money where we can so that we can use the rest on what matters most to us. We talk a lot about both time and money management so that we can waste as little as possible on both. We do this while also embracing a progress over perfection mindset. If that sounds good to you, then please stick around for the latest episode right after a few quick words from our sponsor. Hi everyone, welcome back to Lola's Frugal Life Podcast. So quickly, before we get into the episode, I'm going to share a little bit of updates on what's going on in my life. We are actually leaving today for a little mini vacation to Lancaster in Pennsylvania. It's about 2 hours from where we live. And it was kind of a great thing to share today because it actually ties in exactly with this podcast episode. So my mom is taking us on vacation, me and my husband and two of my kids, because one of my older son is actually away on another vacation with some friends. And then my sister, her husband, and my niece. So we rented an Airbnb and we're just staying out there for 2 nights. It's just like a little mini getaway. But it's something that she really wanted to do for us. She likes to occasionally take us on a little trip and kind of cover all of the cost. And I just thought it was a good example, especially even for my kids and related to this episode, is that when you prioritize your spending, you can do things that are really important to you, such as this for my mom of taking her family on this little vacation. Because, we rented this really cool house and I was kidding with my kids. I'm like, oh yeah, grandma's loaded. Look at this place she rented for us. But she's not. I mean, she's retired and she's comfortable, but she really watches what she spends. Not like she's not, super restrictive, but she makes sure she prioritizes her money and lives within her means so that she's able to do things like go on this vacation with the family or take a cruise with some people that live where she lives and some friends that she's made in the community she lives in. And, it was just kind of like a perfect example to tie in with this episode that when we really live within our means, we have the ability to do so much more and really make sure that we put our money where we want it to go and be able to do the things that we really value instead of just kind of spending and having to have everything all the time. And then you don't necessarily always have the money for these really important things that you would like to do with your life. So I just wanted to share that. And then my only thing that I could really think about right now for my loving lately was I'm really loving the Halloween decorations in my neighborhood. We've gone for a couple of walks around and people have done some really nice stuff, with different creative ideas. And there's one house that is by me that did this really, really cool pirate theme decorations. And they put blue lights down on the lawn so it looks like water. And there's a little pirate boat, and it's really, really cool. So we've been having a lot of fun with that. So I'm enjoying the Halloween season and enjoying the fall, even though fall is not my favorite because I do not love when the weather gets colder. I'm totally a summer person, but I am enjoying this aspect of this season. So I'm trying to get all that there is out of it that I can really enjoy. So let's get into today's episode. So this episode is probably going to be a little bit on the shorter side because, like I said, we are going on this little trip and I did not have enough time to get as many ideas down on this topic as I normally would like to, but I feel like I got enough down to kind of talk about the point and why I really kind of wanted to do this episode. So the thing is that when we talk about living within our means, we're really just talking about having a lifestyle where our expenses are fully covered by our income. It means that you're not accumulating debt because you're not spending more than what you are earning. And in order to do that, you really do need to practice some self-control and discipline in managing your finances and prioritize, how you're spending and budget appropriately. It's more than just kind of controlling your spending impulses. It's really about kind of adjusting your lifestyle so that it makes it easier for you to use your finances on what matters most. And the goal in living within our means is to kind of have our expenses aligned with our income, and actually even a little bit less. Like, you don't want to match up your expenses exactly to your income, because then if anything goes off, any emergency, any extra expense, your groceries came in higher than you thought, you had to buy more gas this week, you don't want to be cutting it so close that no matter what happens, it throws you off budget. Now, I know that's not always possible. Sometimes we might have to make some changes to get that to happen, but the goal is to be able to live where your income can easily cover your expenses. And the reason that this is so important is because it's not only good for our finances, but it actually makes us a lot happier. When we are able to live within our means, we have less financial stress for sure, because when you have enough income to cover your expenses, you're less likely to accumulate debt, and debt creates stress. So naturally, just by having less debt, you're going to have less financial stress. And even if you feel like, oh, well, I can make the payments on the debt, it's fine, it's not really bothering me, it might be fine for a period of time until something comes up and then you can't make those payments. And even just having payments that you have to worry about, making sure that you're always able to make, there is some level of stress with that. So by not having debt, it causes you to have less financial stress, and that obviously makes you happier, because if you're not stressed, you're going to be more happy. Now, I'm not saying that it's always super easy. Obviously, I know there are times where myself, I've gotten into debt. I'm not in debt right now. It took us a while to get our situation where we wanted it to be, but it didn't just happen. It takes effort. And a lot of times, some people will say that they can't do it. They don't have enough income to be able to cover their expenses. And yes, in some cases that's true, but in many cases it's not true. A lot of times we don't really look at where our money is going. And when we don't look, we don't realize that there's places that we could save, and we can live within our means if we put the effort in. Many times it's just a matter of taking the time to really look at where our money's going and see what changes we might be able to make. Another way that living within your means can make you happier is by having better control over your spending. In order to live within your means, you really have to be mindful of your spending habits and prioritize your expenses. When you're out spending money on whatever it is that you are doing, you want to actually think about purchases before you make them, and not make impulse purchases, so that you can really focus on the things that truly matter to you. And when you get that control over your spending, you just feel a lot better about the purchases you make in general, because you know that there's something that you really want, and you didn't just go into Target and come out $100 later and not really know why you bought any of the things you just bought. There's just a much better feeling about spending money on the things you really value, rather than just kind of going in a store and making impulse purchases. And then you also feel a lot more freedom when you have your finances under control. When you're not overloaded with debt and financial stress, you just have a lot more freedom to go after the things that make you happy. That could be things like traveling more, or pursuing a hobby, or just spending more time with family, whatever it is that you really enjoy doing. When you have your finances under control and you know what you have available to you and how you're able to allocate that money, it makes you a lot happier, because you can feel free to really put your money to where you want it to go, and not have to worry if that's going to cause you to not have money for some other thing that you will really need it for, because you'll know, because you're going to have everything laid out, so that okay, I have this much income for these expenses, and I do have this much more to put towards whatever hobbies or activities you really would like to allocate your money to. And it also increases your self-esteem, because when you're in control of your finances, you're just going to naturally feel more confident and empowered. When you kind of know what's going on with your finances, it makes you feel good. A lot of people might not want to look at their finances because they feel like it's going to make them feel bad, but having that unknowing feeling in the back of your mind, and not really knowing if you're going to have enough money for whatever might be needed, a car repair or just your regular bills, or you're going on a vacation, you don't know if you're going to have enough money left when you come back. Not having that situation under control While some people just think they're better to just avoid it and what happens, happens, it really does have a level of stress related to it. And when you have everything under control, it does make you feel a lot more self-confident and better self-esteem, and that leads to living a happier life. So what are some things we can do to practice living within our means? First of all, of course, being intentional with any increases in income we get. Even if you feel like you've kind of already done everything you can do at this point and you're still struggling, make sure that anytime you get an increase in income, you're mindful with what you do with that. If you don't need anything else right now in your regular short-term goals, can you maybe increase your retirement contribution? Or if you do have other short-term savings goals, maybe you want to put that money towards certain savings goals. It's not so much about what you choose to do with your increased income. It's more about the fact that you are making a choice on what to do with it. You're not just letting it get kind of sucked away into nothing, because we all know how easily that can happen. If you get an increase in income, you get an annual raise or whatever, or you get like some kind of bonus or something. If you don't really think about and be intentional about what you're going to do with that money, it can easily just kind of be gone on random things. And you're like, wait, what happened to that extra money that I had? So really just kind of making an effort to be as mindful and intentional with any of that additional income you get over the course of time can make a big difference in keeping yourself living within your means. And of course, budgeting. Budgeting is for all income levels. If you don't manage where your money goes, it's going to go places that you're not intending to put so much of your financial resources to. So your budget really kind of allows you to make decisions about where you want it to go, about where you want your money to go. So always keep up with your budget. That is going to help you guide your resources and help you stay within your means, because it's going to be right there on paper or in Excel or however you do your budget. It's going to show you if your income is not aligned with your expenses, and it'll give you an opportunity to get ahead of that rather than to find out after the fact. You can also make a list of your savings priorities. Just kind of trying to keep a list of the things that you're going to want to save for in the future. Even if you don't have money right now to save for those things, having an idea of things that you would like to save for can help you allocate any future earnings or bonuses or anything like that may come to those savings items. And it's already things that you've thought about, so they're definitely priorities to you. So by kind of keeping a list, you can make sure if you get extra money, you put it towards those things rather than just kind of spending it on, maybe something that's not so important to you. And then, of course, practicing contentment. When we're content, we are happy with the things that we have. Of course, this does not mean that we can never want more, but practicing contentment can really help us be happy with where we're at right now, while we're still able to dream about the things we might want in the future. So sometimes people wind up spending more money than they currently have available because they want to kind of treat themselves or like give themselves a reward. But you can do that without making a purchase by just kind of taking a minute and looking around and being grateful for all that you have. And it'll actually feel good to take a moment to do that and not go out and purchase something that maybe you can't afford right now, or even if you can afford it, that you don't really care that much about. You're just kind of doing it just to do it. So it's really just kind of being content with what we have and being happy with what we have so that we can make sure that we take our financial resources and use them in the way that really is in line with our values. And then, of course, don't compare yourself to others. Sometimes we can really get caught up in this. And the problem is that there's always going to be someone with a better car, a nicer house, better clothes, fancier vacations, whatever it is. There's always going to be someone that can one-up you. And when we kind of can get in a mindset of comparing to those things, we're not always thinking about the fact that you never really know the whole story. They could be funding that lifestyle with a ton of debt. Or maybe they're funding that lifestyle by not having a lot of things that you may want to have because they're using that money to prioritize those other things. So you really don't know the whole story, and it really doesn't matter what the whole story is. You can still be happy for that person, for whatever they have, while being happy for yourself with what you have. And if they do have something that you really want, then maybe that's something you need to think about and think how you can reprioritize to have that. But I think a lot of times it's not even necessarily something we really want. We might just see someone has something and then think we want it, even though maybe it was something we never even wanted or thought about before. So with many things, just not comparing ourselves to others can be helpful, especially in this area too, of really trying to help ourselves live within our means and live happily in that way. So if you kind of take a look back over the last 2 years and you're not super happy about what you've done with any increases in income or how you've kind of managed your finances, you can always make steps to change that. You don't need to go and cancel all your subscriptions and, just kind of like stop living how you're living. But just kind of taking a closer look at how you're spending your money and make some decisions on what you might be able to cut out can really make a big impact. You can take actions to stop. Maybe if you're buying coffee out every morning and you don't really like to do that, not that you don't like to do it, but it's not like a super priority to you, you're just doing it out of convenience. Maybe you start buying something that you like to drink at home or whatever. I know that, they always use that as an example. I think they call it like the latte factor, and they say it doesn't really have that big of a difference. Whatever, you can argue it can or it can't, but it's more just about the point of what are you spending your money on? And is it something that you value, and is it impacting your ability to live within the income that you have available? You can usually always find some money that you can put to better use. And the thing is that there's a huge feeling of freedom knowing that your income supports your lifestyle. So whatever changes you can make to get you closer to that point, even if you feel like you can't fully get there yet, is going to have a really big impact on our life. Sometimes we don't want to look at our financial situation because we're afraid of what we might find, but I guarantee you it's always better to know and be in control of what the situation is rather than just kind of go along feeling stressed about the unknown. So that's it for today. Like I said, this is a little bit of a quick episode because I am getting ready to go on a mini vacation. I'm super excited. And if anything exciting happens, I'll tell you about it in my little life update in the next episode. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here next week. So thank you for checking in for this podcast episode. And don't forget, you can always email me with any questions or suggestions at lolasfrugallife@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at lolasfrugallife. And you can find a blog post for most of my episodes and definitely all of my meal plan episodes at lolasfrugallife.com. You can also join our private listeners group at facebook.com/groups/lolasfrugallife. And if you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen from. And I would love it if you would screenshot the show and tag me on Instagram so I could see you're listening. Also, if you can please take a couple of seconds to rate and review the podcast. Those ratings and reviews are what help the show come up better in search results so that other people can find this podcast. So that will really help me in growing my audience. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have an awesome day.